what we can do as the interparliamentary.
Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching The World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories of the hour. US President Donald Trump says he has signed a bill requiring the release of government documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Trump, who had earlier opposed the measure, announces on Truth Social that he has just signed the bill. Senior Pentagon officials led by Army Secretary Dan Driscoll arrive in Kyiv to meet President Zelensky and discuss efforts to end the war with Russia. The visit comes as reports emerge of a new peace plan after a Russian strike killed 26 people. Ukraine says at least 26 are killed and dozens are missing after Russian drone and missile strikes hit apartment blocks in Ternopil. Officials say nearly 100 are injured as Russia launches hundreds of drones and missiles, damaging energy and transport sites. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman meets members of Congress in Washington as he promotes deepening economic and security ties. The visit follows a lavish White House welcome from President Trump, who again defends him over the 2018 Khashoggi killing. Hamas condemns new Israeli airstrikes in Gaza as a dangerous escalation, warning they threaten an already fragile ceasefire. Israel says the strikes respond to a Hamas violation, while medics report at least 25 people are killed in the latest attacks. A Philippine court sentences former Mayor Alice Guo to life imprisonment after finding her guilty of human trafficking. Authorities say Guo, later identified as a Chinese national, Guo Huaping, ran for office under a false Filipino identity. Sudan's army chief, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, says his council is ready to work with the United States and Saudi Arabia to bring an end to the conflict. The statement thanks regional mediators and follows President Trump's pledge to coordinate efforts with Gulf states to stop the fighting. The Israeli military says Hezbollah is violating a ceasefire by rebuilding operations in southern Lebanon near the Israeli border. It says dozens of sites, including headquarters and weapons stores in civilian homes, have been identified around the village of Beit Lif. Now our top story of the hour, the ongoing Epstein situation in the United States, and former US Treasury Secretary and former Harvard President Larry Summers is stepping down from a series of high-profile positions as scrutiny intensifies over his long-running correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein. Summers announced his resignation from the OpenAI board, and Harvard later confirmed he will step away from teaching and take leave from directing the Mossavar Rahmani Center, while the university reviews individuals named in the newly released Epstein files. Though no evidence links Summers to Epstein's criminal activities, the revelations have triggered a wave of consequences. Several organizations say he is suspending his roles with them, and the New York Times will not review his contributor's contract. The developments come as President Donald Trump signs a bill requiring the release of Justice Department's Epstein's records, a move he had previously opposed. Okay, joining us now is Peter Baum. He's the editor of the Weekly Blitz, and he joins us live from London. Peter, a hugely significant day in US politics, and with Larry Summers stepping down. What kind of ripple effects is this going to trigger ahead for the political elite throughout Washington and beyond, of course, once these files are released?
Yeah, good morning, Thomas. Great to be with you again. The consequences are going to be far-reaching, and I think I can give you some breaking news. I don't think it's exclusive to myself, but it hopefully will be exclusive to news to your channel as we speak because it's real time. I've just been in contact with some sources in Washington, and the story here has huge geopolitical consequences. If I may just explain why. You would have been aware that just a day or so ago, Elon Musk attended the White House dinner with the hierarchy of Saudi Arabia. This, in the mainstream media, went past very quietly, whereas the rift between Musk and Donald Trump was all over the news, as we quite remember, for weeks. Please bear with me here, Thomas, because it's all to do with the Epstein files. Now, the rift here is between the United States administration and Qatar. I'll explain why. Donald Trump would not have released the files if he felt that he as an individual was to be implicated. He's not. But where the release of the Epstein files has been damaging to him has been the far right of the MAGA movement, which want to embarrass anyone, whether Democrats or Republicans, who are connected either religiously, culturally, ideologically, or politically to the State of Israel. The MAGA movement are currently being funded by Qatar. All these far-right influencers that we're seeing daily admonish Trump for not releasing the files have a financial axe to grind, and we've seen the likes of Tucker Carlson, Candy Sewing, and many others on the far right who are intent of ensuring that those on the far left and those who are, as I say, associated with Israel are embarrassed. Now, Trump is aware of this, and that's why he brought Elon Musk on board to ensure that the great influencer is going to do his bit to smooth the path open, not because of embarrassing Trump, but because of the split within the Republican movement. That's what Trump sees as damaging. Now, as far as Trump is concerned, he doesn't care how many Democrats, irrespective of whether they're associated with Israel or not, are damaged by this. He really doesn't care. In fact, it would be a win for him. Hence, he felt comfortable enough in releasing the files. But what he's not comfortable with is Qatar funding the far right, who are doing their utmost to embarrass anyone associated with Epstein who may also be associated with Israel. And that is a real rift, and that is the issue that Trump and his administration are facing at the moment. So the mere fact that Elon Musk, after a huge fallout with Trump, is now back on side, gives you you must ask yourself, well, why is this? And it's simply because of Musk's influence in the world of social media.
Indeed, and of course this is going to be a huge development when these files do effectively come out. They do have the next 30 days for the Department of Justice in order to process anything. Of course, Pam Bondi here, Peter, has promised transparency. In full transparency is what she said specifically. How much of that do you think we are in reality expected to get?
Yeah, this again is going to be interesting. Now, as I said before, Thomas, I firmly understand that had Trump been personally implicated more than he is, other than the photos we've seen of him posing with Epstein and shaking hands with him, he would never have gone as far as he has done in releasing the files. I expect there to be full disclosure. Trump himself would be stupid if he went this far and decided after the 30-day limit, which you're quite rightly pointed out, he says on to the world, no, we're not going to release anymore or not disclose anymore. Full disclosure, I expect, will come. There could be some redactions, and he could use the policy of stating that America's uh, could be at risk from external parties, etc. He could always use that, and that may indeed happen. But I suspect, having gone this far, his main effort now is going to be focused on ensuring that those far-right MAGA influences, funded by Qatar, as I've suggested to you, tone down the rhetoric.
Yes, indeed, Peter. Thank you very much for joining us. Do stay with us, actually, as we have further updates, but this time coming out of the Middle East for our next story. And the Israeli military has accused Hezbollah of violating the terms of a ceasefire by attempting to re-establish itself in southern Lebanon, a short distance from Israel's northern border. In a post on X, the military has said that it has identified dozens of what it calls terrorist infrastructure sites in the area of a village, including headquarters and weapons storage facilities, some of which were placed inside civilian homes. The IDF has also posted a video pointing to the places it claims are Hezbollah sites. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has struck a Hezbollah weapons storage facility in southern Lebanon. The Israeli military has kept up frequent airstrikes in Lebanon in spite of a ceasefire sealed last year in November that sought an end to more than a year of hostilities with the Iranian proxy. The latest raids come after 13 people were killed in a strike that Israel said had targeted Hamas leaderships in a Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon this week. Peter joins us once again. Peter, of course, accusations of ceasefire violations fly between both parties when it comes to Hezbollah and Israel. However, of course, the Israeli military saying that it is going forward with stepping up operations. This must be quite concerning for those affected in the areas, and of course the fragility of this ceasefire, which was signed last November.
Indeed, Thomas, and let's be frank about it. The ceasefire has been broken, and these are the reasons why. Both the IDF and the Netanyahu cabinet and Hezbollah operatives and those supporting Hezbollah have come to the correct conclusion that the Lebanese army, who have been charged with the responsibility of disarming Hezbollah, don't have the competencies to do that. Therefore, Hezbollah feels quite emboldened in ramping up its manpower and smuggling in weapons, and Israel too feels the right and the need and the necessity to stop that. And the Lebanese army, as I say, who politically have been charged with the responsibility of disarming Hezbollah, are powerless to intervene. Until such time as that dynamic changes and Lebanon, who are trying to become more influential militarily, they are ramping up manpower, they are getting political support and military training from a variety of nations, including the USA, but they're in no position yet to undertake their objectives that has been forced upon them to, as I say, to disarm Hezbollah. And thus, we will continue to see these outbreaks, these skirmishes, until such time as the Lebanese army is in a position to do what Lebanon's government said it will try and do. Hezbollah, undoubtedly, apart from being a military influence in Lebanon, are a political influence, and they are indeed members of the Lebanese army who support Hezbollah, mainly the Shia Muslim bloc within the Lebanese army. So it's a very difficult position, and the fear is that these sporadic skirmishes get bigger, more frequent, and another conflict, a wider conflict occurs. America and the actions of the Syrian government, who can stop the smuggling routes of weapons into Hezbollah, and indeed are trying to, are the two main factors that will ensure that will determine what happens
Yeah.
in weeks and months to come.
Yeah, and Peter, this follows just a few days ago where the Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament said that Hezbollah has the right to rebuild itself like any organization. Is this worrying discourse?
Yes, of course, and for that he's been condemned by certain parts of the political spectrum, not only in Lebanon but in the region as well. But this really exemplifies what Lebanon is all about. It's broken into religious groupings, Sunni, Shia, Druze, and political groupings that support those religious groupings, such as Hezbollah and the Shia bloc. So it's a very, very awkward situation for all parties. Naturally, the good faith actors do want to see Hezbollah disarmed and just take its place as a political force. But
Yes.
Hezbollah, like Hamas in Gaza, is unwilling to do that. And until such time as enough pressure is brought upon them, either politically or militarily, I'm afraid we're going to continue to see these sporadic outbreaks. If they can be contained, as they have been over the last 4 or 5 decades, but with the various wider conflicts, such as the Lebanese wars once a decade, we may see history repeating itself, Thomas. We may really see another outbreak. The only difference here, the only comfort factor here is that Iran, currently isolated and currently in a very, very weak position, does not have the financial, political, or military influence over her proxies as she once did. So, therefore, Hezbollah will never be as strong as she once was, unless, of course, that situation changes on the ground in Iran.
Yeah, and of course it's important to reiterate to our viewers that, of course, Hezbollah is also a political party which holds around 12 seats in 15 seats, apologies, in Lebanese government. You see Hezbollah moving forward as purely a political force in Lebanon, in the south, where indeed it, of course, does operate healthcare, schools and other facilities.
Well, that would be the wish, and all good faith actors would want that. But Hezbollah itself, still ruled by totalitarian theocrats, have this desire to eliminate the Jewish state of Israel. Now, I cannot, for the life of me, see Hezbollah's ideology changing. Will we get some more moderate clerics ruling Hezbollah? Perhaps, but I don't see that in the near future. So therefore, Hezbollah is determined to build itself up again militarily from the shocking defeats that she suffered during the Gaza war. She's able to do that, but this time without the support, as I said previously, of the Iranian regime, or without the large support of the Iranian regime. And that could itself ensure that Israel militarily, should Israel inflict severe losses on Hezbollah going forward, may determine if Hezbollah says, well, okay, chaps, we'll just act as a political force, doing the job that she is doing with social welfare, for example, in Lebanon. But at this moment, Thomas, I don't see that happening. Rather the reverse. Hezbollah is trying to build up its military operation again and its manpower, and I think we will continue to see skirmishes as we've just witnessed this week.
Yes, Peter Baum, thank you very much for joining us in that discussion. It's always a pleasure to talk to you here on the channel. We now move on and over to the Indo-Pacific, and a Philippine court sentenced Alice Guo, a Chinese national who posed as a Filipina to become the mayor of a town north of Manila, to a life imprisonment on human trafficking sentence. 7 of her co-accused received the same. Guo was found guilty of operating a Chinese-run online gambling hub where hundreds of trafficked workers were forced to run scam operations under the threat of torture. Prosecutors said the facility functioned as a large-scale trafficking and coercion network disguised as a gaming centre. Let's take a listen in.
Finally, after more than 1 year, napakabilis po ng korte. Binigay sa atin yung favorable decision. So, convicted po si Alice and yung pong other 7 accused. Life sentence po, and forfeited po ang entire Baofu compound in favor of the government.
It is not just a victory for the government, but a victory for the victims, for the community, and pati na rin sa ibang bansa. Makikita natin kasi ibang biktima ay may mga foreigners.
We're now joined by Shruti Dasgupta. She is an international affairs expert, and she joins us live from New Delhi. Shruti, thank you very much for joining us. What more can you tell us about this interesting case?
Is that Alice Guo pretended to be born in Philippines when she was not actually. In her teenage years, she traveled with her family to the islands, and where she faked her Philippines ID to later become the mayor of her small town north of small town Bamban. And there is where she ran this giant infrastructure facility with 36 buildings, housing about 700 to 800 people from various nationalities, running the scam center under, as your report claimed, a gaming center. And her fingerprints were found to be of Chinese, or registered to a Chinese person named Guo Huanping, if I'm not wrong. And thus, she was proven to have never been applicable for the post that she was holding. And obviously, that in itself is a crime. And then the organized trafficking, which Philippines has been marked by the UN report, being famous for organized trafficking, is something that it has been marked in the UN report for. And this particular center is part of it. So Alice Guo's case is something which some of them are calling her as a spy, a Chinese spy, but I think it is something of something that is a world over problem, where people don identities that are not their own and gain political power and then misuse it to run crime cartels and get away with it due to their political powers.
Yeah, and Shruti, how does this play into the narrative? Of course, the broader amount of scam centers which operate particularly out of the Southeast Asian region?
Well, there are more than one. They have investment scams, they have the honey trap, romance scams, they have the phishing and spoofing scams, and all of it has a large part of it coming from the Philippines. So the president, I believe, has shut down offshore gaming centers, which were a front for a large part of this industry. And this industry, and it's a lucrative industry. I think America alone lost, I think, $10 billion in 2024 to these kind of scams that are run by these scam centers. So this is part of it. And if there is so much money involved, then there is definitely corruption involved in it, because it is not possible for 700, 800 people to be in a small town and not be noticed for the activities that they're doing. So that is where Alice Guo plays an important part. She is an illegal immigrant, probably, to Philippines. Her identity is fake, and then she gained political power to control the narrative of the region. And so if they look deeper, there will be many other people under her who probably got their palms greased so that this industry can grow. So as a whole on Philippines, they need to take a deeper think into how this kind of an industry is flourishing right under their nose, under the entire state machinery and mechanism, and the cost that the common people end up paying for the kind of scams that are run through these centers, as well as the people who are running these centers, people who are part of the machinery of these centers, the smaller cogs, they are themselves victims of organized crime. So there is a bigger, deeper question that the world needs to look at when they look at Philippines and Alice Cooper.
Yes, Shruti Dasgupta, thank you very much for speaking to us as always. Pleasure to have you here on the programme. We now move on next and to some breaking news. And 42 people have been injured in a train accident where an express train has collided with another passenger train in the southern Czech Republic. The accident has occurred near the city of České Budějovice, around 150 kilometers south of Prague. The spokesman for the rail operator Správa Železnic has said that all passengers have been evacuated from the trains and that the investigation on the cause of the crash is ongoing. Now we move on, and Brazilian President Lula da Silva put his roadmap away from fossil fuels back at the centre of COP30 negotiations in Belém today, even as a bold push for an early deal fell short. Lula arrived in the Amazonian host city to personally rally ministers and negotiators, urging countries to commit to a long-term transition beyond oil, coal and gas, while stressing that no nation would be forced into fixed deadlines. His renewed calls comes as Brazil circulates a draft pact and presses delegates to bridge differences before the summit's scheduled end. Let's take a listen in.
Tem muita responsabilidade. E é por isso que nós colocamos a questão do mapa do caminho. Ora, porque é preciso a gente mostrar para a sociedade que nós queremos, sem impor nada a ninguém, sem determinar o prazo, que cada país seja dono de determinar as coisas que ele pode fazer dentro do seu tempo, dentro das suas possibilidades. Mas que nós estamos falando sério. É preciso que a gente diminua a emissão de gás de efeito estufa. E se o combustível fóssil é uma coisa que emite muito gases, nós precisamos começar a pensar como viver sem combustível fóssil. E construir a forma de como viver. Por isso que nós tratamos isso com muita seriedade. É por isso que todos os dirigentes do mundo têm que saber que cuidar do clima é cuidar da manutenção e da existência do planeta Terra, porque ainda não encontramos outro lugar para nós sobrevivermos. Cuidar do clima é saber que os países ricos precisam ajudar os países pobres.
Meanwhile, the European Union and Denmark introduced a competing proposal, arguing it better reflects the UAE consensus. Meanwhile, activists filled the venue with chants and fake banknotes demanding that wealthy nations and fossil fuel companies pay for clean energy transition and replenish global loss and damage funds. With tensions rising, negotiators now face a defining test whether COP30 will deliver a historic fossil fuel phase-out or stall amid deep divisions. Now, the US Commerce Department has said that it has authorized the export of advanced artificial intelligence chips, the equivalent of up to 35,000 NVIDIA Blackwell chips, to two companies in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Meanwhile, Tesla CEO Elon Musk and NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang have announced partnerships with Saudi Arabian artificial intelligence startup Humane at the US Saudi Investment Forum. Musk and Huang have both confirmed the development of a 500 megawatt data center in Saudi Arabia, and Huang has added that NVIDIA is working with Saudi Arabia to build supercomputers to simulate quantum computers. Let's take a listen in.
We worked together to get this company started and off the ground, and just got an incredible customer with Elon. Could you imagine a startup company, approximately $0 billion in revenues, now going to build a data center for Elon? 500 megawatts is gigantic. This company is off the charts right away. In addition to that, we're working AWS, as you know, is also
Congratulations to the Humane team with AWS, starting with 100 megawatts with a gigawatt.
Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international updates.